What are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm definitely very late to making this review, but alright, it's Sense, and this is my review on Rise of Skywalker. So let's just start out with the positives, which, okay, well, I guess to ground it off, I'll start out with a little bit of a history for it. I'm not a really big fan of the last two movies. I enjoyed The Last Jedi more than I enjoyed The Force Awakens, but not a huge fan of the two movies beforehand. So this was just kind of like I needed to finish off the trilogy, needed to see what the overarching story was. So here we go, episode 9. This is going to be my early review without really going into spoilers. I'll go into a little bit more in a few minutes, but here's just the beginning part. So first I want to say, just like the whole trilogy as a whole,
they have good visuals, they have good audio.
I guess I don't recall audio being too spectacular in The Force Awakens, but there's definitely a few moments in The Last Jedi which were just really amped by how they worked with audio, where they brought it in, really messed with the bass. They had the same thing here with Rise of Skywalker. There's a few scenes in here where I'm like, if the sound was different, they did something different with the sound design, you would feel it. It's just something that kind of resonates with you. So they did an excellent job with that. But that's kind of a given. I feel like most huge blockbusters in this day and age, they have some idea what they're doing when it comes to audio and visuals. There's some stylistic elements in here. You're gonna see some JJ lens flare. I noticed it. I wanted to start nudging people around me like, you see the lens flare, but I just it didn't distract too much from the story. I just noticed it because it's something you just see in a JJ's movie. So in terms of that, that's good. In terms of character arcs, there was some good stuff here. There's actually some really good moments in this movie. So that's good. There's also some stuff that was pretty disappointing. Nothing that I felt was the worst ever. I feel like the earlier two movies had more moments that I was like, this is just not as good. At the same time, I feel like some of the past movies may have had some higher moments, but I don't know. This movie still had my favorite moments of the trilogy.
Cool story, bro.
There's that. Another thing I'll say about it on the positive side of things is I felt like it really wrapped up the trilogy in a good way. That's kind of the issue you have with the first two movies. They felt like they were going two different directions completely, maybe not opposite, but just two different directions. So having a movie that managed to make it seem like most of the major things somewhat came together in one conclusion, I think was a pretty good move. So another good point for the movie. There are some negatives. Again, some of the character arcs and character points were just kind of, I just wasn't a fan. I felt like they didn't really go anywhere. There wasn't like a complete story there. There was a few stuff with the fights. I'll get into that a little bit more later on, which made it kind of...
Look at this dude.
Well, anyway, I'll get into it later on. Even though this movie did wrap up the trilogy pretty well, I felt like in wrapping it up, it did kind of solidify that this trilogy, in my opinion, didn't really thematically follow the other two trilogies as well. I kind of get that with the prequel trilogy was a little bit of cheating because it was going right into another trilogy. So it was so easy to know where it was going and feed it into that, to build up stuff, to hint stuff, to foreshadow stuff going into that trilogy. It was just there. With this, there wasn't this thing they were building towards. They just had something from the past to look at. So I kind of get there's more of a struggle with that, but I do feel like it did end up making it kind of feel like it was saying something different than the other trilogies, and not as oh, this is a new thing, but rather in a we're contradicting what the other ones were saying overall. So that's one of the negatives for me. And I guess my final gripe, if you want to call it a gripe, I feel like it's personally somewhat of a big thing, is me coming out of the movie and not feeling like I had a huge amount to talk about. Like, obviously over time, I saw the movie a couple days ago, some more time to sit, to talk, to discuss. I was able to come up with more to say about it, but when I came out of it, it kind of was a whole like, okay, we're done. Trilogy's done. That chapter's done. I don't know. I was just feeling, okay, it's done. Kind of felt, I mean, there were some people who clapped at the end of it in the theater, but I felt like as a whole, everybody's energy was kind of like, all right, we just saw a movie, you know? And I don't know, I feel like sometimes, especially if you're older ones, you can kind of come out of most movies, I like to come out of them feeling some energy, some emotion, you know? Even if it was being angry at the movie, being upset by the movie, being just pumped up by a movie. I'll just like come up with something, and I feel like this one didn't particularly deliver on that. So anyway, those are a brief thing on some positives and negatives without going into into spoilers. So how I rate this movie, I would say I don't particularly recommend this movie for someone to watch it just on their own. Just be like, oh, well, I want to see a Star Wars movie, let's start with episode 9, or let's just watch episode 9. Definitely wouldn't recommend that at all. Even just in general, if you're just like, let's watch a random Star Wars movie and you didn't know them, I also wouldn't recommend 9 over most of the others. I would honestly rather go to theater and go to theater with Pop and 8, to be kind of honest with you. But that's kind of how I feel about that. But I do think that if you haven't seen the movie and you have seen the past 2, you should go see it, because you need to wrap it up. You need to conclude everything. You need to see the final chapter of the Star Wars saga. I just feel about that. You just kind of gotta do that. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up by giving it a 3 out of 5 in my rating book, which is, I guess I could briefly say what I thought about the last 2. I give The Last Jedi, I'd also give it a 3 out of 5, but more of a 3.5 out of 5. My rating system isn't super comparative like that. It's a 3 out of 5. And then I would definitely give The Force Awakens, it's a 2 out of 5 in my book. So anyway, now we can move on into the spoilers.